When the Note line was first released, people didn't quite know what to make of it. After all, phones were still quite small back then, and even then, the idea of the smartphone wasn't quite as ubiquitous as it is today. The second iteration, though, did definitely show a growing fan base, and it also showed that general smartphones and also larger phones in general were starting to get a lot of fans. So, with the release of the third Note smartphone, we see that Samsung's grown power and now very far reach made it one of the most anticipated phones of the year. And upon its release, the response was pretty unanimous. The Galaxy Note 3 seemed to signify for many people the current pinnacle of Samsung's mobile presence. But that was then. And it's Josh Vigard from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And this is the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. Now. Okay, quick story. Now, back at IFA in Berlin, there was a live stream hosted by Mobile Geeks that was going on for the entirety of the show. And at one point, I was privileged enough to be a part of a panel there talking about General Mobile, mostly Android, obviously, since those were the main developments. So the Galaxy Note 3 obviously came up, and we had to talk about that textured plastic on the back. Now, echoing a lot of the people out there, a lot of you who lamented over the glossy plastic that became all too familiar in 2013, I came up with a bit of an idea. You know, Samsung, if you really wanted to make your users happy with their Galaxy S4s, then you would make replacement backs made of this textured plastic instead of the glossy plastic they have already. And then here is Sascha Pallenberg, who quite frankly is somebody that I look up to. His eyes just go wide open and he says, "That is a fantastic idea. I love that. Samsung, you should listen to him." Fast forward to last week when we reported that Samsung has updated the Galaxy S4 with, you guessed it, a textured plastic backing. You're welcome. And now we make it to the present day. Now, up until the Galaxy Note 3, I had reviewed a couple of larger phones, and since then I reviewed plenty of them. And while I still am not too sure if I would use a large phone every single day, there is only one device that actually got close to taking that title. And that is, of course, this Galaxy Note 3. Now, obviously, as I've been pointing out a lot in this video already, my love for the new material choice still continues, but as far as the size goes, what really struck me about the Galaxy Note 3 is that at this size, at 5.7 inches, after some time, especially with the more sort of rounded but also flat look on the front and back mostly, you do find that this size begins to feel incredibly normal. Sure, you might wrestle with this phone trying to get it out of a tight jean pocket, or when you're trying to use one hand in order to do all of your tasks, you might notice it then. But until those particular moments, you probably wouldn't even think about the fact that this is a larger phone than most. And of course, that screen remains one of my favorite parts. It still provides great color quality, high pixel count in that 1080p display, and also the large size, I have to admit, does create a much better viewing experience than many of the other phones out there. If I had a choice between this and the Moto X, as much as I love the Moto X, I would pick this to watch a movie on any day of the week. And of course, if we were going to talk about imaging, the camera still has to be spoken of because it still provides great quality shots at that 13 megapixel count. And even if using a phone this large it doesn't make taking pictures very easy, the pictures you get from it still look really great, and that is a testament to Samsung's quality in their optics. So you can probably guess where my main gripes are when it comes to the Samsung Galaxy Note 3, and yes, it does have to do with the software experience. But probably what is more disappointing about it, rather than just the usage of the software, is the fact that it's something we just kind of expect from Samsung now. As far as the aesthetics go when it comes to TouchWiz, it is pretty safe to say that it's just getting old. Even if it is being used on a larger screen, which helps to sort of fit all of the elements in, TouchWiz still remains very bloated, and it's just a little bit larger than it probably should be. And the general plan that Samsung has of just packing in feature by feature by feature into their TouchWiz software is really not doing it enough justice anymore when it just looks this old. Whereas stock Android has opted for growing simplicity, Samsung is definitely oversaturating their features in the Galaxy. Which pretty much brings me to my main point when it comes to the software. It's the fact that it's kind of something we expect to happen when it comes to new Galaxy devices. Now, for example, did I get excited for every S4 feature to come to the Note 3? Of course I was. But if you remember back in my review and then subsequent feature just like this on the Galaxy S4, I found that those new features I didn't even really use after a little while. And despite the consolidation and admittedly the very elegant grouping of the S Pen functions in the Air command, like a lot of you Note users out there, I started to not really use the S Pen a whole lot after some time either. So that's kind of the experience when it comes to the software standpoint. Now, it's something I kind of want to term Galaxy Syndrome, and the main reason is because it's something I definitely saw with the Galaxy S4, if you remember, but on the Galaxy Note 3, it's also there as well. Now, the S Pen is something that is wholly unique, so maybe the syndrome is at a smaller degree on the Galaxy Note 3, but it's still kind of there. And ultimately, what it means is that all of these features that Samsung loves to pile into their phones might be exciting at first, but after some time, they do kind of fade into obscurity. So with all of that in mind, what really makes the Galaxy Note 3 super popular? Because it really is. This is definitely one of the highest rated phones that I've ever seen, at least among my peers, because no matter who I ask who has a Galaxy Note 3, I find nobody who really hates the experience on here. And I think I kind of have it down. It's because even with those different features that you may or may not use, the general, main, and basic smartphone experience is actually somewhat perfected in this phone. Because pretty much everything that you might want to do on a smartphone, you can definitely do on the Galaxy Note 3. If you want a gaming rig, you have a great one right here that can handle all of the great games out there. If you want to multitask, you definitely can, and in a bunch of different ways, especially with that 3 GB of RAM. And if you want a stylus experience on your smartphone, well, you can't really look anywhere else. And thankfully in the Galaxy Note 3, it is brought to its highest possible level thus far. So this is a very valuable trait for a smartphone to have, adaptability, and that's something that the Galaxy Note 3 has in spades. And so, there you have it, the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 now. Especially with its unique stylus and its larger build, this is one of the better smartphones at a larger size that you can have today. But even on top of that, it is still a very good smartphone in its own right. So if you can get past the larger size, you're still going to get an experience that you're probably going to have a lot of fun with. And so with that, we do say that the Galaxy Note 3 still holds up very well, especially mine. It may not be a phone I use every day, but I still have a lot of fun every time I do. And as far as we're talking about Samsung and the Galaxy line, I am really excited to see what's coming in the pipeline for the Galaxy line. But if the Galaxy S4 and the Galaxy Note 3 gave me any one big takeaway, it's that I have to come into these new devices by the Samsung Galaxy line with open eyes, get excited about the features, but at the same time, Galaxy Syndrome might rear its ugly head at some point after the release. As always, thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this look at the Samsung Galaxy Note 3 now. If anything, what the Galaxy Note 3 tells me, along with the Galaxy S4 before it, is that for future Galaxy releases, I might think the features are really awesome to begin with, but later on that might change. Like I said, it's called Galaxy Syndrome. You can stay tuned to Android Authority for all of the best coverage of our reviews of phones and also for our event coverage. But also take a look at the coverage that my buddies over in Android have, Joe, Jace, and Kevin the Tech Ninja. And check out all of their content, drop us likes on our videos, hit that thumbs up because we love to see that. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already, because Android Authority is your source for all things Android.